So before this video starts, I just want to say I'm not a reporter or a journalist or anything of that nature. I'm not affiliated with anybody. I just wanted to make this video just to I just say my thoughts and just give like a final farewell, maybe eulogy to MiniMaxi Warehouse and all my good times there. So here we go. So on November 10th, 2022, there was an article published in NPR WUFT about MiniMaxi Warehouse, a very popular and well-known storage unit facility where a lot of Gainesville bands would come to practice, hang out, and have a good time. I first became aware of MiniMaxi back in 2017. Soul Survival had a full lineup and we were looking for a place to practice, as practicing in a garage with a noise ordinance proved to be problematic. We started rehearsing at Guitar Center, and for a couple of weeks that was going all right. But due to how expensive it was to practice there for 3 hours, 3 times a week, plus the noise complaints we got from customers and neighboring businesses, we had to find a new place to practice. Thankfully, Buck said she could talk to Deb and see if we could get into a unit at MiniMaxi. Now, Bay 37 was already occupied by 2 other bands, Piss Test and Oof, whose music I will link down in the description. Deb messaged me on Facebook and we figured out a schedule where we could fit in. We met up, she gave me the keys, and there it was. Soul Survival's first official rehearsal space, where we could be as loud as we want for as long as we want, free from noise complaints and paying by the hour. What we did know, however, was that we just entered into a community of like-minded individuals with diverse music tastes, vast amounts of wisdom, and loads of ambition and talent. It didn't really hit me until I came to practice on the first Wednesday night. There were cars lined up from the front to the back on both sides of the storage facility. There were so many people and so many bands there, I couldn't believe it. I heard amazing riffs, blazing solos, and thumping rhythm sections so epic I thought my heart would explode. It was at this moment I knew we were in the right place. Over time, as we played and practiced more and interacted with all the bands there, we really came into our own. Everyone was super supportive and encouraging, whether they had been playing for 3 years or 3 weeks. There was always someone to mentor you or someone to be mentored, and we really built off of that, and it kept us going. We got our first show because of Piss Test and multiple other shows just by asking other bands in the unit. I saw bands begin and end there, members cycle out, and new sounds being made every day. It was almost like a dream come true, as lame as that sounds. I looked forward to it every day, jamming out and hanging out with good friends and having good times. We even took some official band photos there. So after I got married, I moved out of Gainesville, but I would still travel back frequently to visit family, see my old friends, and of course, see some local music. After COVID happened and Soul Survival lost our drummer, we didn't practice too often, yet we still would meet up at the space to jam out, and sometimes we would just bring some drinks, some food, and talk, whether it was all of us or some of us. I even used the space for some playthroughs and interviews, as it was a prime location and was a place I felt secure and could really cut loose. On February 18th, I awoke to a message from Deb telling me that we were getting kicked out of the space and that we had to have all of our gear removed by the end of March. I was shocked, saddened, and confused to hear this and asked for a reason behind it, which is when I was informed all the bands were being kicked out of MiniMaxi and would no longer be allowed there. I let my bandmates know and they equally agreed that it sucked, but there was nothing we could do. After a couple of weeks and still no answers as to why this was happening, I went to retrieve my gear from the space. It was heartbreaking walking in and seeing the bare walls that were once adorned with posters and stickers, the empty spaces on the drum riser that was devoid of any drum kits, the guitar that once hung proudly from the ceiling now just leaned up against the wall on the floor. I truly felt like I was leaving my home. I took the blue tarp off my amp and wheeled it out to my car to put it in my trunk. After I had loaded my amp, I went back into the unit one final time to take it all in, and no lie, I cried. This has been a safe haven for me for many years, a place where I made many friends, shed many tears, and laughed harder than I ever have before. I had grown and matured so much just by knowing the people that I met there. I had not only become a better musician, but a better person. My bandmates became family, and I would never have met them had it not been for MiniMaxi. We brought our significant others and even family members there to watch us practice, and even they had a good time just listening to us and watching all the bands. But aside from my own personal feelings, the worst thing about this is now there is one less place for bands and new musicians to thrive, one less place for new bands to form and be mentored by older bands, one less place to hang out, one less place to turn your amp up and rock out as hard as you can, as loud as you can. One less place to express yourself and let out the rage, hatred, and sadness of life in a positive manner with other like-minded people. There were a good chunk of Gainesville scene that operated out of MiniMaxi, and now we have been robbed of that. So on March 9th, there was a second article published in NPR WUFT revealing that the Santa Fe College Foundation was responsible for the mass eviction of bands from MiniMaxi Warehouse. The foundation had owned the land since 2015 and decided that to further whatever plans they have that they will not disclose, all the bands needed to go. Now, there are some issues brought up in this article that never really seemed to be a problem that would provide a solid motive. The whole getting in the way of bread trucks thing was never an issue from what I saw. I actually used to run one of the trucks out of that warehouse, and we never had any issue with the band's vehicles being in the way. We would always wave at the truck drivers as they drove by, and they would wave back at us with a smile. I think the real reason has to do with putting up a new educational building or some other nonsense like all the other buildings and apartment complexes that are springing up like herpes with wildfire. Also, I'm kind of shocked to find that Deb was getting a lot of hate for the article and was getting scapegoated for this whole scenario. First of all, I know Deb, and there is absolutely zero chance that she would knowingly do anything to hurt the local Gainesville scene at all, ever. Also, MiniMaxi housing bans wasn't an extremely well-kept secret, and this was clearly something they had been planning for a while. So the fact that people were blaming her for it is beyond me. All in all, this is a tragedy, a shame, and a blow to the culture and creativity of Gainesville, Florida. I really hope we can all find somewhere to practice and store our gear, and the scene can remain as strong and intact as it has ever been. Thank you all for listening, and please support your local music scene.